Well, folks, WWE Hell in a Cell is now in the history books, and what a unique and strange show this was. This was a weird one to watch. It was live from Chicago, Illinois, the suburbs, that is, in the All-State Arena, as they call it. And I've been in that building before a few times, and it was the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, but this was a very weird show. This was a show that felt weird, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So WWE lately has been changing their position when it comes to like pay-per-views or premium events or whatever. The thing now is a lot of what they're doing is they aren't like building up to these things the way they used to. Now we're having a lot of the matches be seen on TV. We're seeing shows where stars are missing, and this show was definitely that. This pay-per-view felt like one of those old SmackDown pay-per-views during the roster split era where you're missing a lot of the big stars. And because of that, the show, much like the last month's pay-per-view, did have a lot of good wrestling, but was missing that star power and that storyline progression that pay-per-views are supposed to give us. This show had no Usos, no Riddle, no Orton, no Nakamura, no Roman Reigns, no Charlotte, no Ronda, no Drew McIntyre. Like, literally all of the top guys from SmackDown and girls were pretty much gone. It felt like a Raw-only pay-per-view, even though it was, because it did have one SmackDown match on it, or maybe it was two. But it just really felt like either an episode of Raw or more like a TV special than a pay-per-view. The Hell in a Cell, ever since it became its own pay-per-view, it's begun to really lose its credibility as far as what it used to be. There have been good Hell in a Cell matches since they started doing this. For example, Bayley and Sasha had a great one, and I really enjoyed the one with Seth and Edge last year. But this year, it's interesting. So they were originally going to do 2 Hell in a Cell matches, but they cut it down to 1, and it was the main event of the show, Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. And we'll talk about that here in a minute, but it's actually better that they only have 1 Hell in a Cell match per year, because then you can save that match for like a big, ending of a feud. And Cody Rhodes and Seth is the ending of that feud, or so I would like to think. But also it's interesting because their feud, I don't think, had become like a blood feud. Hell in a Cell is supposed to be to settle like the worst rivalries, the biggest enemies ever, but it didn't feel that way because of the fact that their feud's not really like that. And so I still think that at some point they should probably remove this pay-per-view from the lineup and just do Hell in a Cell matches when necessary, but they might not do that. So the All-State Arena had a pretty good show. The show itself, the wrestling, the matches, was good. I'm going to get back to Cody in a minute, but I want to talk about my favorite match of the night, which was the triple threat match for the Raw Women's title. Bianca, Asuka, and Becky, almost a 20-minute match. Really, really good 3-way. Great near falls. They were in good positions throughout. You got 3 great workers. I want to see this match again. I want to see these girls wrestle again, because this was a great, great 3-way. I know 3-way matches can sometimes be a mess, and a lot of wrestlers hate doing them, but this was about as good of a 3-way as you're going to get. In fact, this 3-way was one of the better women's 3-ways they've actually done in this company. And a lot of great near falls, a lot of really creative submission escapes using all 3 women. If you're going to watch anything from this pay-per-view, I would recommend seeing this match, as it was my favorite one, of the show. They had an awkward 2-on-1 handicap match with Bobby Lashley and Omos, and Lashley won, so hopefully that feud will end now. I feel like this show was used to end the B feuds more than continue the A feuds. You know what I mean? Because after this show, they're going to have to hit the reset button on Raw tomorrow night. Kevin Owens and Ezekiel, I actually was surprised as to how good Elias is as Ezekiel, because it's like a totally new moveset. It really is like he's playing a different wrestler. He has new moves, he's quick, he's really, it's actually more fun for me to watch Ezekiel than Elias. Ezekiel is like a better worker, even though it's the same guy. More of a variety of moves, totally different moveset, different style of wrestling, much more of a baby face, like traditional baby face. He even wears like 80s tassels like the Ultimate Warrior. But Owens did get him in the stunner and won the win. And actually, he got a pop for his win. So that feud needs to end as well. Like, this show kind of just proved to me that these feuds have to come to an end. Then we had Judgment Day, which is Edge, Damian Priest, and Rhea Ripley against AJ Styles, Finn Balor, and Liv Morgan. Pretty decent little show here. A good match, I would say. But again, it felt like a house show. You know, this pay-per-view, just like the last pay-per-view, the WrestleMania Backlash, felt more like a 3-hour house show than an actual, like, pay-per-view. But they did end storylines here. But if you were to go to, like, a WWE house show in, like, the 2000s or even in, like, the 80s and 90s, you'd probably get a show like this, you know. This was a good match, though. I mean, you know, there were a few times where Liv Morgan was a little bit late with her delivery, but everybody worked hard. Edge spears Balor for the win, and I don't know if they're going to go with a one-on-one Edge and Balor match since Edge just pinned him clean, or where they're going to go with this feud. But the rumor was that Tommaso Ciampa was supposed to join the group, but I'm not sure if that's still happening. I don't know. Then we had the No Holds Barred match with Madcap Moss and Happy Corbin. I really am tired of that feud. Again, it's a B or C level feud. This entire show was literally the word B show because they were missing so many freaking stars, dude, and they blew off a lot. At least it's a good blow-off show. We know that with the upcoming television, they're going to have to start things over again because, you know, Madcap Moss defeats Happy Corbin clean 1, 2, 3 in the middle in a hardcore match. And actually, not only does he beat him, this is a pretty brutal match. He also stretches him out. And hopefully, unlike MJF, you know, he'll sell this stretcher job and be off TV for a while. Because obviously, and I talked about this before, at least I think I talked about it on here, but I'm not really sure. But Corbin just had a kid. Like, his wife just gave birth. And he was going to take time off anyways. But you have to understand, with all the things going on now, like Cody's injury and Roman wanting to take time off, there really is going to be a need to push new guys. Like, now the need is, like, even more than ever before. Like, these guys have to be elevated, man, because the show's going to start getting real boring. You know what I mean? Then they had an Austin Theory Mustafa Ali match. Mustafa Ali had his family in the crowd. He had a new outfit, and the crowd was behind him. It was his hometown of Chicago, Illinois. And, of course, he loses clean because in WWE, if you are the hometown hero, there's a 9 times out of 10 chance you are going to lose clean. So the crowd crapped all over it. It was done to give Theory heat, but I think Theory has more of that, like, go away heat, like X-Pac heat in 2001 versus, like, we don't like you kind of heat. Then came the Hell in a Cell match. Now, Cody, you know, was injured. The story had come out that Cody got hurt lifting weights. And when he took off his Homelander outfit, you could see a gigantic, very distracting bruise on his chest because he has a torn pectoral muscle. Now, this was very distracting because as I'm watching the match, and trust me, I do believe this was a legit injury. I think he might actually be hurt, but as I'm watching the match, it was very distracting. The match was great, but you could tell while watching the match that they were kind of going slow. You could tell they were taking their time, you know, because they obviously don't want Cody to get hurt even worse than he already is. And unless that was like, you know, Hollywood level makeup, I think that was a legitimate torn pec. And interestingly enough, Rollins wore these polka dots like Dusty Rhodes to mock him. And at one point in the match, they actually did some tributes to Dusty Rhodes, not just with the punches, but also with the cowbell. They brought out a cowbell for the classic Texas bull rope matches that Dusty used to do. You know, and that I thought was pretty cool too. You know, they did a lot of really clever things in this match. Really clever things, and it was good, but you could tell they were being really careful because of Cody's injury. You know, I do give a lot of respect to Cody, and I think as a babyface, this might actually get him more over because of how ballsy he is. And he didn't have to, like, he could have easily told WWE, listen, I have a torn pec, I can't work. But he went in there with a torn pec, laced up his boots, and worked the entire match while trying to make sure he didn't make his injury worse, or worse, get something else injured on his body. And I think he was okay. He did win the match. He hit him with, I think it was 2 crossroads and a sledgehammer. Got a big pop and closed the show with him winning. But with this injury, he's going to need to take time off. So literally WWE and AEW both lost their top baby faces within the same week. Isn't that weird? Isn't that a weird situation to have happen? So Cody's probably going to be gone for a while. I'm not sure how long of a while because that injury looked real, but Cody Rhodes still did the best he could to finish the match and finish the feud, and maybe they'll figure out what they're going to do tomorrow night on Raw to kind of hit the reset button, because there really is a need for something big to happen, because right now, like, it just feels, the show feels that we're, like, WWE right now, Raw and SmackDown, they feel like we are on cruise control. They feel like they have no real direction. It feels like there's no direction with the characters. Roman is only there half the time now because he's taking time off. Cody might have to take time off. Like, it's a very strange time for WWE. I would say a little bit of a transitional period. So I wonder if they are going to bring back Lesnar, which I hope they don't. But at least not right now. But, you know, there's been rumors about him coming back, and I do wonder how they're going to be able to regroup from all this, because there's a lot of people now who might be on the shelf for a while, and they've got a couple of pretty big shows coming up with Money in the Bank and also with SummerSlam in July. So hopefully they'll be able to write some good creative, even though I don't trust them because they really haven't written good creative in a long time. But yeah, I don't know. I can't say this is a bad show. The 3-way women's match was good. The Theory Ali match was good. And the main event was good. There were really no matches on this show that were complete trash. I mean, Bobby Lashley and Omos is a feud that doesn't need to happen anymore, and you can skip that one. But if you're looking for a pretty fun little house show pay-per-view, or like just to watch some wrestling matches, this show is not really a bad show at all. It's not an offensive show. It's not like, oh my God, this show sucks. But it felt very empty. It felt very void. There weren't any stars on it except for a couple. And it felt like it was just one of those roster split shows from back in the day that they just happened to have on the calendar and didn't really have a plan for, which I think has been an issue with this company for a long time and needs to change because it really has hurt them. Anyways, it was a thumbs up show though, but you could skip it if you want to be honest. Nothing really huge happened. You just saw a bunch of feuds end, which can be a huge thing if you care about these feuds. But me personally, the only feud I cared about was Cody and Seth, and that pretty much ended for me last month. You know, nothing really that they did since then added to it. So if you care about these feuds, go for it. But for me, I don't know, man. I feel like I don't regret watching it. It's just, it didn't feel like a really major pay-per-view. And it's Hell in a Cell, but it did not feel like a major pay-per-view. The AEW show last week had pretty much every major star on it from the company. This one did not. And that is something that makes the show feel a little bit weird. Anyways, that's my little rant and my review for the show. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.